Okay, this is just a read through and further explanation of the assignment brief for your first unit in health studies, access to healthcare in modern Britain. So, you should have seen these before. If this is your second module or your third, if it's your first, then we'll go through it, but hopefully it'll be helpful to everyone. So, the document here, your assignment brief, gives details in the main of your assignment, the important thing. Before handing in your assignment though, you should copy and paste this whole document to the very start of your assignment, and then what follows after is your work. Okay, and what you need to do is you need to fill in your name, you need to check the box here to say you confirm, and then you can electronically sign it and date it. Now the rest of that front page is basically for myself to fill in. With regards to your submission deadlines, you'll find those in the module handbook, which I emailed to you and is also on Moodle. Now, the important thing is right at the end of that document, the section that says assignment brief. I cannot emphasise this enough. This is what you must do. This is your assignment. Okay? If you go a bit earlier in the brief, you'll see this. It's the assessment criteria. You don't have to worry about that. I have already created the assignment so that by addressing the assignment you automatically meet these criteria and you will at the very least pass the assignment. So these just have to be put on the document for technical purposes. You don't worry about those. Alongside the instructions for the actual assignment, another important thing is how you are graded. Okay? So you're graded on your understanding of the subject, the application of the knowledge you have, your communication and presentation, and the quality of your work. And you'll find on the assignment some guidance notes into what we're looking for in order to get the higher grades of merit and distinction. So under each grading area or grade descriptor, you'll find those areas. So when calculating your final grade, you will have been awarded a pass, merit and distinction in these four areas, and I take the average grade and that gives you your final grade for the unit. Okay, now, so for instance, if we get a merit for understanding, a merit for application of knowledge, a merit for communication and presentation, and a pass for quality, maybe you've not addressed the task in the correct order, then you would get a merit overall for the unit. In some cases, in these four areas, you may get 2 distinctions, say, and 2 merits. Overall, I then look at the piece of work in its entirety, and then I decide whether to give you a distinction or a merit. Sometimes it's obvious. If you get 3 distinctions, for instance, out of the 4, you will get a distinction. But where it's equal and balanced, so in my example 2 distinctions and 2 merits, then I have to decide. I am inclined though to grade upwards if that's the case. Okay, moving on to the assignment brief. There are 3 sections. The first section is split into 2 parts basically. First of all, you give definitions of health and illness from a variety of credible sources. So basically, health and illness can be looked at and defined in different ways. I want you to just write maybe 200 words about those different ways, and you'll find information on that at the start of the unit booklet. Following on from that, you should describe the biomedical and socio-medical models of health and illness. Once again, you'll find details on that in your booklet, and also there's a PowerPoint on Moodle that will help you. So you describe what those two are, and then you evaluate them. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of their assertions? So for section 1 you have the definitions of health and illness, and then the latter part is describing the biomedical and socio-medical models. Try to do all of that in approximately 600 words. Definitely no more than 700, else I may have to ask you to rewrite it, because at that point I'm not assessing fairly, because obviously you can write a lot more within 700 words or above, as opposed to following the instructions and writing 600 words approximately. In section 2, now you have to be careful here. I'm asking you to refer to statistical data to explain patterns of health and illness among different social groups, i.e. showing me how different social groups have different levels of health and illness. So some of them are more likely to be ill than others. Some of them live longer than others. Now, these social groups, I want you to choose one area, only one. If you choose social class, you talk about the different levels of health and illness among rich and poor people. If you choose ethnicity, the different levels of health and illness among different ethnic and racial groups. If you choose gender, the different levels of health and illness between men and women. Only choose one of these. You'll find examples of that once again in the handbook, which refers to a PowerPoint, which is also on Moodle, and there are links there to various articles relating to social class, ethnicity or gender. Once you've given those examples of your chosen area, you then try and explain why these health inequalities exist. You'll find explanations for that also in the booklet. For social class, you're discussing areas such as social selection, as lifestyle, and the material or Marxist explanations. For ethnicity, there are explanations regarding the inequalities in society that ethnic groups face. Racism and also ethnic cultures can lead to differences in health when you compare them to others. For gender, the explanations could be the feminist ones. They could be to do with the social roles that men and women have, how they're different. They could be to do with the biology, the differences between men and women, and also the jobs that men and women do, where they tend to be different. So for section 2, you're given examples of the health inequalities of your chosen area, and then you're given the explanations for these health inequalities. Okay. Finally, section 3. Here, essentially, you're talking about what we call the postcode lottery. This section is 1,000 words and it's very open-ended. You're showing how, in different areas of the UK, different groups of people, they have different access to healthcare. So they may have to wait longer for an ambulance. They may have to pay or not pay for a particular service. So you're just giving examples of that. And the last bit is where you're evaluating how these inequalities, okay, in terms of the postcode lottery, how they are affecting people at the moment. So people, because they have to wait for longer for an ambulance, to be blunt, people in those areas, they're going to die while they're waiting for the ambulance. Okay, and you can look to the future and you should say, well, if this isn't addressed, if this isn't dealt with, okay, what's going to happen in the future? So there's a lot of discussion in the press at the moment about the different access to services people in Scotland have compared to England and compared to Wales and Northern Ireland. So that's an example. But for this section, I've given you in the booklet a lot of examples. You can choose some of them I'd be hoping you'll find your own as well, and just show how the postcode lottery, as it's called, is affecting health. Okay, so you have your 3 sections there. Remember to include in your report a cover sheet, a front cover, a contents page, a very brief introduction, just to say in this assignment I will be discussing the following 3 areas, and then obviously your main sections, maybe a short conclusion, and your references at the end. This is important, references, because you'll be graded here on communication and presentation, and referencing the correct academic method, which I like to be Harvard, but you can choose another way as long as you do it correctly. That's all I'm concerned with. You'll find help with referencing right at the very start of the Moodle site for your course, and also if you look in my module handbook there are some links there. Remember, with referencing you have to reference in your reference section at the end of your work, where you give the full details of the sources you've used, but you also within your writing have to indicate where you're using those sources, but you only give the smaller amount of details, so the name of the author, organisation and the year. Okay, but once again I can help you with those. If you send me a draft, I can comment on your referencing and how well or not you're doing it. Okay, so that's the assignment. Hopefully I've given you some extra information there that will help you to complete it, and of course if you've got any questions on what is required, then please email me or we can arrange a phone call. So hopefully that's helped. You won't need it because I'm sure you're all very capable, but good luck.